38 people. That's fantastic.
All right, good week, good week.
Evening.
Hello, everybody.
Good
Hello.
evening
Hello.
from Colorado.
Hey, Susan from Colorado.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Juneteenth.
There you
Happy
go.
Juneteenth.
Mm.
Good evening to everyone.
Miss Wanda.
Hey,
Good
George.
evening.
Master George.
Oh no. Master G, like the rapper, was a Master G back in the day.
They're Robert new headphones, huh?
Yeah.
It worked good Saturday.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's better for me. It helps me concentrate better too, especially with my son being here, because my son be sometimes he be noisy in the other room. Yeah. I'm used to being by myself, but now he living here now. He be gaming sometimes, he be having conversations with people and he be acting like he the only one in the house. I'll be like, hey, somebody else in here, bro. You can't make all that noise. So yeah. All right, guys. So we're gonna get rolling. We're gonna be talking about a great and some of you guys that are on other things with me. Y'all heard me talk about the Pomodoro technique. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that today, about helping you get your activity up so that you're not just making calls during the blitz on Tuesdays. We want you to make calls on days other than that. We're gonna also talk a little bit about the fourth annual coming up, and that's going to be, we're going to be doing that on Monday, August 1st from 7:30 to 9:30. It's going to be a 2-hour training for our fourth annual Prospecting Trucking Companies Zoom. I'm going to also drop the link in the chat today for everybody, for people to get registered for it. Of course, the emails will be going out for you to get registered as well. But those that are on tonight, I'll drop the link in the chat and you'll be able to get registered for that event tonight. If you got an email in your inbox that said the meeting was canceled, then you got to look at the email. It's talking about the meeting from August 1st. And the reason why it's canceled is because we're doing the fourth annual Zoom that day. So our regular Monday night, that's 8:30 to 9:30, we're replacing it with 7:30 to 9:30, the fourth annual prospecting Zoom. So I had to cancel that Monday's Zoom meeting in order to set up the Zoom meeting for the fourth annual. So make sure you register for that. Because you won't be able to get in on August 1st with the regular Zoom link, just so you guys all know that. So don't wait and then try to get in there. Again, I will drop the link in today. Also, we're going to be talking a little bit about prospecting new companies and how you can do that, why it's important to do that, and then what site you can go to do that as well. So we're going to be talking about a few different things on tonight's call. So hope you guys are prepared. Hope you guys are ready. I'm also going to be putting the Pomodoro technique link inside the chat where you guys can click on and open up the PDF. Now, you don't have to open up the PDF right now because I'm going to pull it up on my screen. So you don't have to worry about having it available right now. But the link, take the link, drop it somewhere else so that you can pull it up later on and look at the details on it. And then also, I've sent that Pomodoro technique out to you all anyway, probably 5 or 6 times in the last 30 days. So some of you guys already know what I'm talking about because you got the email and you opened it up. Some of y'all don't open your emails, so y'all know what's in there. So, but I have sent it quite a few times, probably at least once a week. I know I've sent it. So if you've got the Pomodoro technique email that I sent, just put a 1 in the chat so I know that, somebody got it somewhere. But I know some of you guys have gotten it and some of you guys haven't gotten it. So we're excited as always on another Monday to spend some time with you guys and make sure you guys understand everything that's going on. So we're going to start with our introductions, of course. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sharanda Ivy so she can get started first. And then after we're done with the introductions, we'll go right into the Pomodoro and then right into how you can be calling on new trucking companies. So Sharanda?
Awesome. Well, good evening, everybody. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Monday. Happy June 20th as well. My name is Sharanda Ivy. I'm from Byron, Georgia, which is Middle Georgia. Been with Legal Shield 9 years. I'm a 50K ring earner. I earned the Ladies of Justice #1 field trainer for 2019 and 2021. We've written over 1,000 personal memberships, have that production award. #2 group opener for 2021 as well. Emory Elite associate, meaning in the top 100s. We're actually number 49. And just focus on business solutions, helping individuals in the space as well, writing my own personal memberships, but also helping other individuals work a lot with small business, one of the top small biz producers as well. Just focusing on all of that within this space, choosing my major and my minor here in the CDLP space, small business coverage as well. So this platform has really helped me. I now host the accountability call because I'm a CDLP state trainer and field trainer as well. And so with that, just working with individuals nationwide, helping them to hit their goals and to help close out their deals. So if you are looking for some accountability, we do that on Thursday nights. It's a Zoom about 9:30. It's about, I say about 30 people on there now, and most of them have been there. Most of them have been there now for, I think it's about 3 years we've been going at it. So a lot of those individuals are being recognized on the Blitz, which is great because there are a lot of them are really picking up the phones versus going out. I did start my business definitely knocking on doors, but since the pandemic, I transitioned to 100% from the phone. So it can be done either way, whatever way you prefer. So the world is opening back up. So that may be an option as well. So definitely, again, this is Sharanda Ivy. And so I turn it over to you, John.
Always tough following you, Sharanda, but
Whatever.
yeah. So this is my 15th year in Legal Shield. Oh, I should say Sharanda's Hawaii bound next month also too. So good, congratulations for that. I was out field training today. I haven't mastered the art of doing it from phone like Sharanda has, but I go out and knock on doors. I found a few doors today that were closed. They said they were closed for the holiday today. So it was kind of unusual to see that in the trucking industry. We thought this industry is open every day of the week because trucks are always running. But I was field training out there today and a lot of success. People are willing to talk to us. We have a lot to share with them with our small business plan and our commercial driving plan. And it's fun just to get out there and have these conversations with these essential workers. That's what I enjoy doing the most, going out there and talking to these trucking companies, seeing what their issues are and how we can help them. And there's a lot we can do with them with our in-place small business plans, which are really geared towards trucking companies now more than ever before. And the commercial driving plan, which is the top plan out there. There's nothing that compares to what we have to offer for transportation companies. I got started in the truck tire business many years ago. So that's how I got into this business. I saw the issues they were having because when they couldn't pay me for their truck tires, which I gave them on credit, it was always because they had a ticket. So I figured out I had to find out something that I could offer them that would help with the ticket so they could pay for the tires. And so my first 7 years, I was doing it part-time, and it's gone shifted to full-time. I've been full-time the last 8 years, and it's been a different joy every day. So there's no bad experiences. All right, Robert. You're muted.
You guys
You're
hear me?
muted.
Okay, good. All right, so I just dropped in the chat the Pomodoro technique, and I just dropped in the chat the registration. So I see some of you guys already registered, because I see you guys putting in the chat that you registered already. So I appreciate you guys doing that. Remember, on that Zoom, Make sure you're there on time for that Zoom. I know most of you guys get on this. It's normally about 30 to 45 people already on here when we open it up. But remember that Zoom is only going to hold 100 people, and there's normally close to about 160 that are on that Zoom annually. So make sure you're on early so that you can get in. If for some reason you can't get in on that day, just go to my YouTube channel. It'll be running live there at the same time, so you can always see it there. If you get kicked off and you can't get back on, just go to the to my YouTube channel, and it'll be running live there. So that you don't miss anything. Of course, it will be recorded as usual, and it'll be put out afterwards, so you'll be able to see it then. Another thing, just to get ready, I know we just did a CDLP certification last weekend, but on July 16th, Sharanda Ivy and Alan Roman will be doing the next CDLP certification, so make sure that you are registered for that and ready to go. And yes, Jim, I will be sending everything I put in the chats. I will be sending in the email too as well to everybody, so you'll be able to get the links for everything for that. Of course, we'll be having on the Facebook page the next CDLP certification training. I'll be sending out emails for that. Corporate will put it on the Facebook page. I'm sure Alan will shoot another video, and Sharanda will be posting it as she normally does as well. So everybody, make sure y'all get registered, because like we do every time. This past week, people was messaging me right after it was too late, 5 o'clock. Hey, can I still get in? No, you can't. Too late. So get in, guys. 3 p.m. Central Time the day before. That's when you need to get in. So hopefully everybody has that Pomodoro technique. Again, you don't have to pull it up. I'm going to pull it up. And the reason why I'm going to go over that real quickly first is just so you guys are having a better idea of how to set up your call times and stuff, and how to be more productive during the day. And then Sharanda and John are going to talk a little bit more about going to a site, pulling new companies, you know how you can call on new companies, just a way for you guys to be more active in your CDLP business on that side of your business. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up this this form now so that you guys can see it here, so that you don't have to pull it up on your own computer. I don't want you to have to do that. So all right, I'm gonna share my screen. All right, so if everybody can see, if everybody can see my screen, just put a 1 or 2 in the chat. I'm sorry, put a 2 in the chat so I know that you guys can see. Is my chat going up? Okay, good. That means y'all can see it. Good. All right, so I'm pulling this one up real quick. The one that I'm gonna send you guys is gonna be more catered, a little bit more catered like this. I just put up any one of them right now just to show you guys this, but I just want to go over the details of it, which is going to be right here. And the Pomodoro technique, I work with different people to get them to do this, and I do it myself. I do the Pomodoro technique myself every day. I have a timer that I use just for this, and you'll find out as well. And if anybody's doing a Pomodoro technique that I've helped set up to do that, you put a 3 in the chat if you're doing the Pomodoro technique, if I've talked to you about it and you're doing it, or if you're doing it on your own. Some of you guys maybe just doing it on your own in general. If you are, because it might be helpful. If it's helpful to you, then put in the chat that it's helping, or whatever the case may be, so that other people can see that the technique does work. I do it in different ways. So you see that it's got 6 steps. So really what this is, the Pomodoro technique is just a way so that you can focus on whatever you're doing, and then you can also take your breaks, take proper breaks, and it will help you focus better. It'll help you eliminate distractions as well, so that you can focus on your call time a little bit better. And when you're making your dials, you're not focused on anything else because you pretty much have your day set. You can also put these on your calendar. I'm not going to go into too much calendaring and all that today. I'm going to kind of make this brief as I talk about this, because I just want you guys to get the idea on a tool that you can use to be a little bit more active in your calling and your focus time, if that makes sense. So it's just a technique, and it's, the Pomodoro technique comes from like the 1980s or something, and it's based on Italian tomato, but none of that's going to be important for what we're talking about. What's important for you guys to understand is that it's a technique that allows you to work and then take a break, work and then take a break. So the original Pomodoro is 25 minutes of focus time and then 5 minutes of break time. But I've got people that do it different times, including myself. Sometimes I work for an hour and I take a 10-minute break. It depends on the project I'm working on. Sometimes I'll work for 90 minutes. It depends on how much focus time I need and how much I'm willing to put in and what time of day it is. Because sometimes I can focus more in the morning than I can in the afternoon. Sometimes I can focus better in the evening than I can in the afternoon. So it depends on what time of day it is, how much focus time I use. So I've learned over time to adjust it. So you don't have to stick with these numbers, but I would say start with these numbers so you can understand how to do it. So as it comes to calling on CDLP, if you're saying, look, I need to make calls, whether they're follow-up calls or you're originally making a call to prospect out to companies, what I would suggest you do is create your list. And you can use the Pomodoro technique to do all those things. So if you're saying, okay, I'm going to create my call list, the task is for you to say, look, let me create my list. I'm gonna set my timer for 25 minutes and I'm not gonna let anything else distract me. So for 25 minutes, I want you to do nothing but make your list, right, of calling, if it takes 25 minutes. If it doesn't take 25 minutes, don't worry about it. However long it takes you, is how long it takes you. But if you can do it and it takes you 25 minutes, just write your list out and don't do anything else but that at that time. So I want you to focus on that. And then I want you to take a 5-minute break after you do it. A 5-minute break does not mean sit in front of your computer and do another task. That means get up from the computer and go do something else totally different, right? Put a 4 in the chat if that makes sense. So I want you to walk away from your computer and do something totally different with your time for 5 minutes. Now, what have I learned to do with my breaks? What I've learned to do with my breaks is do all the things that was distracting me while I was working in the first place. So let's say, for instance, you're texting people while you're working, which you shouldn't be doing, right? Put your phone on focus and don't answer any text messages and use your 5-minute break to respond to people. Use your 5-minute break to separate your clothes so that you can do laundry. Use your 5-minute break to maybe do something in the kitchen, fill up your water container, whatever it is that you can do. Make a task of things that take 5 or 10, 15 minutes to do, and then do those kind of things during your breaks. Does that make sense? Everybody put a 5 in the chat if it makes sense. Because what I want you to do is take your mind off of doing all those individual things that you normally do during the day that get on your mind. And I'm also going to ask you to create a distraction sheet. And you can do it electronically, or you can do it just like on a sheet of paper like this, right? And all you're doing is you're going to have like either a sticky note or a yellow pad or whatever you take notes on, journal, and you just write distraction sheet at the top of it. And what I want you to do with that distraction sheet is when you're doing your focus time, if anything comes to your mind to distract you, something else you have to do, right? I got to pick something up for my child, or an idea comes to your head. Anything that's stopping you from focusing on that, making that list to call those trucking companies, I want you to write that down on your distraction list so that you offload it, get it off your mind. That's the idea of the distraction sheet. Get it off your mind, because then you can look at the distraction sheet later on, and then now you can do something with that idea, whatever it was. But take it off your mind now so you can go back to what you're supposed to be doing. So if I'm working, I'm making my list, I got my time on 25 minutes, I got 15 minutes left. It comes up to my head that, oh, I've got to pick something up for my son. If I've got to pick something up for my son and I remember that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, write it down on that sheet, pick up water container for my son, and then I'm gonna go back to making my list. And now I've offloaded that, and I can deal with that when I'm not in focus time. Does that make sense? Everybody put a 6 in the chat. So that's helping you focus on you making those calls. Then, you making that list. You go back to making that list. When that 25-minute period is up, you stop. Go ahead and take your break. Do whatever it is whatever your break is going to be. Call your significant other, call one of your kids, text somebody, grab some water, grab a snack, whatever you're going to do. Come back after 5 minutes and then start your next 25-minute task. That could be you making calls. You can say, okay, I'm going to make calls for 25 minutes. You start making your calls. You spend 25 minutes making calls. When you're done making those calls for 25 minutes, you take another break, right? You may say, I'm gonna make more calls after this. The next Pomodoro, 25 minutes, you do it again. You make more calls. After that third or fourth one, you're gonna take a 20 or 30-minute break, right? You see it says on step number 6, after 3 or 4 working sessions of 25 minutes, take a longer 20 to 30-minute break before you go back and do your next Pomodoro. And it's easier to put these on your calendar as well. So you can just put on your calendar, I'm doing 5 Pomodoros today, 25 minutes apiece, and this is what I'm going to do them for. You can even use your first Pomodoro for the day to get your day together. So if you're the person that doesn't prepare the day before, you should prepare the day before. But I know sometimes we don't. If you don't prepare the day before, then what you can do is you can use your first 25-minute session of the day to prepare for the rest of the day. And say, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing. Let me set up my day in my first 25 minutes, right? I put a 7 in the chat if that makes sense to everybody. If everybody still following me. So you want to come up with your IPA, your income producing activities that you're going to want to do and put them in 25-minute blocks. Now, if you're doing 25-minute blocks and you're saying, man, I'm getting right when I get in the groove of things, 20 minutes in, then I have to stop and take a break. Man, I get into my groove 20 minutes in, I have to stop and take a break. Then that means you can push up that time. Don't do 25 minutes, do 50 minutes, do 40 minutes, right? You can adjust your time up, but then adjust your break time up as well. So if I decide I'm gonna do 40-minute Pomodoros, then I might take a 10-minute break. So I'm doing 40 minutes of focus time, 10-minute break. 40 minutes of focus time, 10-minute break. After I do my third or fourth 40-minute Pomodoro, then I might take a 45-minute to an hour break. Does that make sense? Put an 8 in the chat, right? Or raise your hand if that makes sense. What you're gonna, now let me show you what that's doing for you. It's a couple of things. One, it's allowing you during a break. So something else I would encourage you to do is to make a break list. Make a break list. That means, what are the things that you do during your break? What do I do during my breaks? I do laundry. I wash dishes. I prepare snacks. I prepare dinner. I make phone calls to somebody that's not business. I send text messages because I'm ignoring my phone during my focus time. I check my emails. So I may say, okay, for my 30-minute break, I'm doing nothing but my email. I'm going in my email, I'm checking my emails, and then I'm not checking my emails again until 7 o'clock tonight, right? That's something that you can do on a break. It will allow you to multitask a little bit, but do it right between Pomodoro focus time and break time. Pomodoro focus time and break time. It'll allow you to get all those things in, and now it's not on the back of your mind. So how many of you are, right? Put an 8 in the chat if you're working on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever day you're working, put together your list, making your phone calls, doing whatever you're doing. And while you're doing it, you're thinking, man, I got to do the laundry. I got to wash the dishes. I got to run to the grocery store, right? Just errands, right? Put an 8 in the chat. You're thinking of things that you have to do. And these may be little things that are 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20-minute deals, right? Not big projects, but just little things that in your brain is bogging you down because there's so many little things. You start thinking, oh my God, this is overwhelming. I got all this work I got to get done. I got all these little, for men, honeydew list things, or for women, just maybe some household stuff that you're doing, maybe something got to do with your kids, maybe you're 9 to 5, you got something you got to take care of, whatever it is. These little things are nagging at your brain and you're thinking, I got to get this work done. Plus I got to do that, which is hurting your focus. It happens to all of us. So when you're doing something like this, it allows you to say, I'm going to focus during my focus time. And what'll happen is, let me get these people letting, I'm sorry, guys. What'll happen is you'll get yourself in a place where you're not thinking about doing that stuff anymore because you know you can do it during the break. Because guess what? I've got my distraction list right here. I've got my break list right here. So now I'm not worried about what time I'm going to start preparing dinner or I got to cut vegetables for dinner tonight. I don't have to worry about when I'm gonna do that because I'm gonna have it on my break list and say during one of my breaks, I'm gonna cut vegetables, right? During my first break, I'm gonna dump my laundry on the floor and separate the colors. During my second break, I'm gonna throw a load in the washing machine. On my third break, I'm gonna throw that load out the washing machine into the dryer. You guys follow me? Yes or yes, put a 9 in the chat. So now I'm taking care of my little tasks and little duties, right, that you may have on your calendar, plus you're making time to do your calls and things like that. So that's how it's really helped me not burn myself out, right? Because I'm not working and just thinking, okay, I'm gonna make calls all day, right? I'm going to prospect all day. I'm going to work on this particular project all day. You know you're gonna work and get a break and your brain will, right, your anxiety levels start dropping. Why? Because your brain knows that you're taking a break every 25 minutes or every 50 minutes or however long you're in between that you're taking those breaks. Your brain knows because you've already made it clear, I'm working the Pomodoro technique, which means I'm going focus, break, focus, break, focus, break, and that'll help you. So if you look at step 1, you're going to identify what IPA you're going to be doing so that you will have those different tasks that you're going to do in the Pomodoro. Step 2, set your timer for 25 minutes or however many minutes you're going to set it for your Pomodoro. On 3, it says work on your IPA task until the timer rings, right? Once it's done, then right, and then again, if you finish in a task and it stops, so if my timer stops after 25 minutes, and I got another 5-7 minutes of work to do on this project, I just finish it out. I don't completely shut down. So this is not about being obsessive about the time. Your break can be 7 minutes, 8 minutes. They don't have to be 5. You can do a little bit longer or a little bit shorter because it's not about the actual time. It's about the concept of focus time, break, focus time, break. A distraction comes, write it on your distraction sheet so that you can go back to focusing. And then all your little tasks that you have to do, you throw them in on your breaks, which takes your mind off your work to do something that's other than work. So when you go back to work, your brain feel like it's refreshed a little bit. So put a 9 in the chat if that makes sense. Take a short 5-minute break, like I said, work another 25-minute session. And then number 6 says after 3 to 4 working sessions, right, you're going to do a little bit more time. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody to use that Pomodoro technique. I'm going to stop my share screen real quick. Hopefully that will be helpful to people to be able to use. If you feel like there's something that you can use to focus a little better, just throw a 10 in the chat. Sorry about that. Just throw a 10 in the chat. So that, I know that it's a little bit helpful for you guys to be able to do something like that. So what we're going to do now, as soon as my phone stops ringing, what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Sharanda and John, because Sharanda and John are going to be talking about, John's going to be talking about where he's doing some prospecting at. And Sharanda's and John together are going to be talking about pulling new companies. How you can pull new companies, why you will pull new companies, as opposed to just pulling companies who are doing bad. Because you guys hear that all the time. How many people put whatever number we on 10, put 11 in the chat if you think that you should only be prospecting bad companies. If in your mind as a person that's doing CDLP, you're thinking, I'm not going to prospect a company that's not doing horribly. If you think that, just put 11 in the chat so that we kind of know that we're talking to the right audience, if that makes sense. So if that's who you are, don't be embarrassed. I know some of y'all like, I'm gonna see if somebody else put it first. I don't want to be the only person to say that, right? We know some of y'all already thinking that because y'all tell us. So go ahead and put that 11 in the chat if you're the person that thinks that, because it'll help you as they talk about that. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to, and I guess I need to turn it over to John first, because John's gonna be talking about where the prospecting happens at on that site, and then we can go from there. So John. You're on mute, John.
All right, Robert, thank you. Yeah, I was just working on my list, and my list is always it's a living thing. It keeps growing and growing, and it's never ending. But I've been focusing more on trucking companies that are brand new. And I remember when I first started my business, okay, again, I relate to my truck tire business, when I knew very little about it. I thought I knew everything about it as far as marketing and taking care of the business. But the part I did not know everything about was the legality of it. And actually, that's why I got into prepaid legal back then, was because when I saw it, I said, I could have used this in my business many years ago. And that's why you have to look at it when you approach new trucking companies that have a new authority and a new DOT number. They're pristine. There's nothing wrong with the company. You're going to find out there's actually very little information about them too. You might have a hard time finding a phone number or an address or an email address to get in touch with them. But we have a source for the DOT numbers, and I'm finding out that the source that I shared on the training that I did a month ago, I would say, updates this list every week. And these are all in numerical order. These companies that are available, they're all over the country. And I'll go and I'll put in the chat the website that I shared when I was doing my training, so you can see what I'm talking about. But when you go on a new company, like I said, they don't think they're going to get tickets. They never think they're going to have a problem. But all it takes is the first time they go through a scale, especially when they got the upcoming, safe driver week coming up, and then the road check week coming in August. They're going to find out very quickly that that they're pristine, CSA scores and the drivers' pristine driving records, if they do have the drivers without any points, it's gonna change drastically. And that's when they find out that they need our services. So it's a lot of times it's basically building a relationship with these companies, sending them information, and just getting to know them and to watch their scores, how they're progressing, and a little bit of a hiccup in it, reach out and give them a call and say, I noticed that you have some issues that have come up. Can we talk about that and see maybe what we can do, what we have can maybe alleviate some of those in the future? Because once they're on the records, there's nothing much we can do about it if it's already been assessed to them, especially with the CSA scores. It's very hard to do anything about that. So I'm going to put it in the chat after I'm done talking, so you can all check it out. But it's a source for all kinds of trucking companies. You can do a search by city that you're living in. If you just put the abbreviated state that you're in, and then also if you just leave the heading just with the dot.gov after it and hit enter, it'll give you a list of all the trucking companies that have applied for their own authority that week. And it's a quite an extensive list. It's probably a couple hundred names on it. We got about maybe 60 associates on this call. And I know we're all not going to do it, but the ones that are, doing that Pomodoro method, like Robert talked about, you can get through this list, and especially if you're focusing in your own state, and make some new connections and have some of the success that Sharonda is experiencing working the phone. But it is a different conversation you're going to have, because these companies don't have any issues yet. They don't think they're going to get any, and basically we want to help them keep their safety record that way, as much as possible, because it's going to be in the possibility that they will never come across a problem. We just have to make them understand that if they think they're the only trucking company that's never going to have a problem, that's not going to be the case. They're going to find out very, very quickly. Might as well put that in the chat, and then I'll turn it to Sharonda if there's any questions.
I have a question.
All right.
Do you limit it to a number of units they have on the new truck companies?
New truck companies, you're going to find out most of them are just starting out with one driver, maybe two drivers. Sometimes there might be 4. Very seldom you see more than that. If you see more than that, then there's probably a very good chance that maybe that trucking company, Sharon and I were discussing this earlier, they might have damaged their previous authority so much that they had to open up another one. And I do have some trucking companies that have gone through a couple of different DOT numbers. Where I had one owner even change his name because he has such a bad reputation with the DOT. So he picked up a dead relative and started using his name for the business. And that's what happens. They just get in these situations so fast that they have to do drastic things just to stay in business. But the one owner company or one truck driver company, 2 driver companies, those are the ones you can have pretty much a good conversation with. And that's all we really want to do, is have a conversation with them, ask them some questions, get them to say yes to some questions, cultivate the questions you're asking them so that they do reply positively. And always, be sure to send them some information by email. It might not be your Legal Shield identified, but it might be like the upcoming Safe Driver Week and in August, the Brake Safety Week, and just to show them that we are in business to help their business succeed. Trucking companies have a lot of issues right now. There's with the economy as bad as it is, there are some trucking companies that are targets out there. If you're hauling computer parts or even food, okay, if you're hauling a load of baby formula, okay, there's a good chance you could be hijacked. Okay, the way things are right now, there's a lot of things that trucking companies have to really be careful of what they're doing, and then on top of that, just with what awaits them around the corner when every time they go through a scale, if they just happen to have a low tire or a burned out tail light, or even a driver that doesn't have his electronic logging device mounted securely or visible, to the inspector. These are the things they're going to find out very quickly. But yeah, the 1 or 2 driving companies, those are the ones you can have an easier conversation with. They don't know what awaits them around the corner, so we can expose that to them, and that way, then when they see it as happening, they're going to remember you.
Are they harder to get a hold of? The one-man show?
No, not usually. You can get a phone number or an email from them, which is the site that I use. I'm gonna post it on there. They usually have the email on there and their phone number. And if they don't have it, it means that they just haven't furnished enough information yet. They will appear, sooner or later. But no, it's all on the website that I'm going to share with you so you can see who they are. It might not tell you who the owner is. Might have to go to different sources on that, but just simply say, I'd like to talk to the owner of the company or the person that is, in charge of the company CSA scores. And they're going to say, what's that? Because they believe me, a lot of them have no idea. And then when they go beyond that, you talk to them, try and educate them a little more about data queue and how they can keep their CSA scores low, but that's probably getting a little too advanced for them at the beginning. All we're here is just trying to show them that there is something that is out there that we specialize in that can help keep them in business and keep their insurance rates low for that matter.
Did you show it? Did you put it out there, John?
I'm going to do it right now.
Oh, okay. He hasn't put the link out there yet, guys. Be patient, please.
I have a question.
Okay.
This is for Sharonda. When there is a operator owner driver who answers the phone, and he's an operator owner from you doing your research, how do you start engaging with him? And he's driving. He might be driving, wired, hand-free.
Yeah, all of them supposed to have a handheld, an earpiece on. So, I taught anybody else, Ms. Ware. I just introduce who I am, and my goal is to, I only say one part of that script that Lamar has is, I know he's the owner. I know he's the owner, but I still treat him as if I didn't know that. Because sometimes the number on the on the research could be the owner, but the owner could have a driver in his truck. He doesn't necessarily have to drive. I work with a lot of investors who start companies, but they're not in their trucks. So so I act as if I didn't, I don't know. So I still ask to speak to the person who handles the DOT violations and the CSA scores.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll say that's him or that's not him. Because like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he said it wasn't him. He might just be a driver. Somebody else may own the truck.
Mm-hmm.
So I say what I always say, that. And if he says it's him, and if he's driving, yeah, he has a earpiece on. So that doesn't mean he can't talk to me. Cell phones are made, people use cell phones every day in their car and truck.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I know I got a focused person. If he's driving, he can't go nowhere. He can't say he's doing something else and driving. Everybody talk on the phone when they're driving. So, but yeah, I say the same thing I say to him. He's an owner. They're no different than a person who's sitting behind the desk, and they're on, they're not in the truck. So I just want to calendar some time with him. I introduced myself as the commercial legal rep. That's what I've always said, you know. And I wanted to calendar some time with him to help him, to talk to him about his DOT violations and CSA scores. That's where research comes in. And that's where I feel that most associates should focus on those individuals that have problems, not that the ones that don't, like John said. You know, John is talking about building your list. You know, he's giving you an opportunity to build your list. So if you run across somebody that is new, because they're bound to get a violation. So, you know, he's right. If you start building that relationship now, and in 3 or 4 months, you research them again, or you start to keep in touch with them, they're bound to get a citation eventually. But he's saying you can start now to do that. But for the person who you're doing the research and these people already have issues, I'm still doing the same thing, just calendaring some time to speak with him about that. Because even though he's driving and he may have time at that moment, I'm okay with that. But my goal is to set the appointment, because I want to make sure that, you know, he knows I'm gonna call and we're gonna talk about this. But if he says he has time right then, we start some dialogue. But it's no different than the person who's at an office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome as well.
So Sharanda, so if you want to touch on just because I know I asked the question obviously before John started talking, like we keep having this conversation about, you know, should we just be going after bad trucking companies, or what am I saying to a truck company that's not bad? Like what is this conversation that you're having, and what do you think is good for the audience to know when it comes to this bad trucking company, good trucking company versus the
Well, John mentioned it too. I think we all have that, you know, that nervousness. It's a matter of knowing the industry a little bit. He talked about when he first started, even though he had a background doing trucking, right, John? Yeah. So he had some knowledge of the industry. Maybe the violations was a little new. So he too said before, when he started prospecting, he kind of backed away from new authorities. But as he got more versed on exactly what they were dealing with in the industry, he would talk to them. And I was the same way. You couldn't pay me to talk to a new authority. I mean, like 2-3 years ago, you couldn't. And it was over time just learning what the new authorities, especially how they think. Because you got to think about it. When we talk to the ones that have bad numbers now, they don't always know about its solutions out there, right? They don't even know that it's something out there that can help them. Most of them think that it's a conspiracy, and, you know, DOT is DOT and nobody can fight DOT and everybody out to get them. And that's just how they think. Or they tried data Q and it doesn't work, and they just think it just is what it is. And so, and we know that we have a solution, we have services, but we sometimes have to build the relationships and do all that with the people who have problems. So my deal on the new company and the old company, you know, I just know that when we talk about our CDLP coverage, right, it's, you know, even the script that everybody uses, talk to you about your DOT violations and your CSA scores. Well, new company don't have that. Half of them don't even know what that is. You know, I mean, because we know we dialing every day, we knocking on doors, and they don't know. So to me, a new company, if you're not versed about other things in the industry or what other things that they're dealing with, it's a longer process. I won't say it's a harder sale. I'll just say it's a longer process. And eventually that they may one day get an inspection with a citation, and they're going to remember that, John called them when they didn't have a problem. Oh, that's what that man was talking about. This happened. Let me call him and see, can he help me? So I just feel like newer companies, if you're not really well versed on talking about other things outside of what we offer, then it's going to be a longer process. Whereas we are trained in certification class to research the company, look for the bad, the ones that are having problems, the ones that are hurting. John teaches us to look at the ones that have fines or have already been fined. So we know they don't have the problem, and we have a solutions to keep the problem down. So our whole training is based around the bad. That's how I look at it. But everybody needs it. I'm just saying the sales process is a little longer for that new company. Unless I've seen, I will say this, and John, you jump in, jump. I'll say this, last year, a lot of my companies were new companies. My groups were groups open, were new companies. My small business plans were new companies. They were newer companies. They may not have, some of them was just startup. Some of them had been in the business probably less than 6 months. Okay, so, but I was well versed on that. I knew how to have that conversation, and so, it ain't that it can't be done. It's just that you got to know that it's going to be a longer process if you're not well versed in the industry to talk about things that matter to them, if that makes sense.
And just be ready to share some information with them. Doesn't have to be legal shield identified, but make sure your information is on it as far as how they can follow up with it. And they'll post it somewhere. They're not going to throw it away. They're going to read it, or maybe let the drivers look at it if they have a couple drivers. And maybe some of the drivers might actually tell them, yeah, you got to get that. You might be surprised if they hire an experienced driver. They might tell that owner of that company, yeah, you should look into that because it will happen. I even had an experience last week. I called in a truck driving school, which is not usually our best resource, but this truck driving school gave me 2 referrals, to 2 businesses that had talked to them about legal concerns that they were having. And so that's still developing, but that's quite possibly going to lead to a couple of groups and a couple of small business pro plans. And I'm actually field trained with somebody on these plans also too. So he's going to have a nice little payday when that happens.
I had a company that I opened up for, for an associate, and the owner, he had worked as a driver for years, and he started his own company. He has 10 trucks, and he knew Legal Shield, and so he wanted it for his company, and so he signed up his drivers. So that's always good, And the thing about new companies is that they a lot of these guys don't understand the rules and regulations. So it's they're bound to get citations eventually, quick. But that initial call, you have to know, may be a tough one, but you follow up in a few months. I promise you, they'll have a problem. But you got to know that first call may be a no.
One of the things that it's all about changing your technique too. So if you're saying, hey, look, I'm going to go after new companies that don't have any violations yet, you just have to put it in your mind that you're going after them for preventative, right? I want to help you keep yourself good. Like I would give them examples and say, look, you don't want to end up like this company. Like you don't want to end up like in these situations. Like, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Sharanda, you're going to get audited 12 months in, right? That's automatic, but you don't want no extra audits when you're getting audited because there's something going on that should be going on. You set your business up the same way you set things up when you formed your business to protect your company, your business structure and everything else, right? You got trucks, you got finance, you got this going on, whatever they have going on. You want to make sure that that stays protected. This is how you do that. You protect your company by protecting the drivers. Your score, for the most part, can take a turn for the worse because of your drivers, what your drivers do in these vehicles, right? Or if it's just one in this vehicle. And this will prevent that from happening. So you have to look at that side of it, because there's ways you can prospect. You know, we talk about low-hanging fruit and going after a company that that already has taken some hits. Well, it's pros and cons to all of that. If you go after a company that's taking a bunch of hits, now you got to explain to them that we're not fixing what already happened. So you got to have that conversation. And we can't fix this mess you in. We can just keep it from getting worse. Or you can go after a new company and say, hey, I don't want you to get bad. I've got some companies I'm working with right now that by the time I found them and they found me, they were already, 13 citations in the last 6 months, in the hole, and they only got 2 vehicles. Whatever the scenario is. So it's really about, again, you have to know how to change your selling technique based on your prospect. Does that make sense? So you got to be a little bit versatile. Everything is not black and white. Everything is not cut and dry. So if you're going to go after, you just have to know how to change your sales game up. And if you don't know how to, then pick a prospect and just go after those prospects. If you don't know how to switch it up, but you got to know, if you want to be successful in sales, you got to know different prospects have different pain points, right? Some people are into preventative health. Some people are, you know what? When my arm is falling off, you know what I mean? Let me go see if they're sore back on. Right? That's how some people are. And some people are like, nope, I don't want it to ever happen. I get checkups so that I won't ever end up in a bad situation. And some people, they want medical care when it's too late. So it's all kinds of people. You just got to know who you prospect and how you're going to prospect them and how you're going to sell them on what they believe in. Right? A lot of times, some people don't believe in insurance. It's like, oh, well, when something happens, then I'll pay for it. Or, I ain't when I die, I'm dead. So whatever happens, you can't sell that person. You can't sell that person insurance. That's not a prospect in that sense, right? Because that's how they think. You got to know how the people you think, people you're talking to think. So gauge that person. And if they're a preventative type person, they're like, I don't want to have no bad situation. This is something that you should have. If that person is like, man, I ain't worried about that, man, if it happens, you know what? Give me a call if something happens. And then go make your way to another prospect. You got to be able to gauge who you're talking to when you're in sales so that you don't waste your time trying to change somebody's mind, because somebody already thinks the way you need to think. You just got to get to them before somebody else does. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's pretty much what it is, right? So for every woman out here, there's a man that'll marry you. She just got to find him. For every man out here, there's a woman that'll marry you. You just got to find the right person, right? Before somebody else finds him. That's the idea, right? So it's just about, there's somebody for everybody. So your prospect is out there. You particularly, the person that you want to prospect, the people you want to prospect are out there. But if you sit at home or you spend time with the wrong person, you're wasting time that you could be prospecting the right person because you're trying to convince the wrong person to believe what you're selling instead of just selling it to the person who believes in having the protection at that time. So you really got to make sure that you understand who you're talking to and why you're talking to them and understand their belief system. It's easier to get a Christian to go to church than a Muslim to go to a mosque. It's just easier. I mean, that's just what it is. So you got to keep that in mind when you're prospecting. Like, stop trying to change people's mind and kind of go with the flow and just make sure you're choosing the right prospect. So hopefully that's helpful. That's helpful to people. So anything else, Sharanda, John?
Well, you're going to find out that a lot of these smaller companies, they work out of their homes. They don't have a business front. They don't have a brick and mortar building, and you can't really, I can't go up to the front door and knock on their door and try and sell them Legal Shield. You have to do that by phone. That's really the only way you're going to be able to do it. And while you're polishing your act, I always tell people that I'm training on the phone with, well, pick another state and work on that state. So if you're from Georgia, start calling people in Nebraska, because you don't have to worry about messing things up. Because if you do mess it up, it's, while you're polishing your skill, then don't be afraid to call on your area. Then you always want to make some calls, because I always like to try and mix my calls too. I like to put some new people in the funnel, some ones with trouble in the funnel, and some ones that are just average. And just kind of, mix those calls up. It's always, if you focus on the area entirely, you can beat you up. You can get beat up with that. So it's nice to call different areas and just see where people are willing to engage in a conversation. And you'll be surprised, and that's when you'll get really polished in your approach and how to supply the answers that they're looking for. But you have to pick up the phone. It's the most heaviest thing in your office is that phone to call. And if you do it, you're going to get better at it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been dialing for 2 years, so you got to know that at the house. Even when we were knocking on doors, we were pulling companies that, they weren't necessarily ones and twos. You'll be surprised. You can have a 15-man group and the office is at the house. The trucks are being parked at a parking deck, a parking lot. So you just got to call and see. You got to call, or you got to, if you're going out knocking on doors, you can use Google Maps and look at it. They have different ways you can look at Google, and you can tell whether it's a subdivision or an industrial park by looking at the map. So if you see that, it's, I don't know, Beth Lane normally probably is a subdivision. But you can look at the map and see, whether it's an industrial area or a neighborhood, a subdivision, and not to go there. You need to call them. So, don't be tricked by your companies that are more than 10 thinking that they all got an office building, because they don't. Because these guys are all over. So sometimes the office is at the house. But however, I've been doing this for 2 years. The phones, it's just a matter of dialing. And I would take dialing any day now. You couldn't pay me a few years ago to say that. You just get more when we were knocking on doors, we knocked on 10 doors at the most a day. On top of gas and all that stuff. When I dial, I can dial as much as I want, right? Goal is always, 25 to 50. But, but to each his own. It's all successful, like you said, And the great thing about CDLP, we can, and our business in general, you can bill anywhere. So you can call all over. Doesn't matter. Like I said, I got associates that I work with on the East Coast that calls on the West Coast because of their job. They still got 3 or 4 hours to work their business. So it's just whatever, I think everybody's been successful every way. So you just got to do it. You can always have the how-tos. If you don't do it, it won't matter. So.
It won't matter if you don't do it. I saw George put that in the chat too. You got to make the dials. And it's like all of this information that we talk about, this all can sound good and people can put whatever they want in the comments. If you don't make no phone calls, you don't make no money. You ain't gonna make no money. It's just that's bottom line. You either going, when I say dials, you be walking in, that's fine. Walking in or dials. But if you don't do any prospecting, you are not going to find out what's out there, right? So like George mentioned in the chat, you find out what's out there by calling, right? So going back to relationships, you ain't getting married if you ain't dating. You got to date to get married, right? So it's like, I don't want to date nobody. Well, you don't want to get married. Because you can't just walk up on somebody and ask them to marry you. That's for sure. So you're going to have to date some people before you get married. So it's the same thing. You got to prospect if you want to make sales. You want to build a business, you got to have clients, and clients come from prospects, and prospecting comes from making calls or walking in. So if you're not going to do that activity, it's just not going to work. So I would highly suggest you do that. Something else we're going to be doing during the training on August 1st is I'm going to spend a little bit of time, a little part of a segment showing you guys how to template emails. So in Gmail, you can create a template email that you want to send out. That way, if you're making calls, you can be productive. If I'm making calls and somebody says, hey, can you shoot me over some information? you got a template already that you can send them an email and then go back to your dials, not spend 30 minutes sending an email to somebody. And every time somebody says, send me something, you spend 30 minutes. Have a template, which is general information that you can send to any prospect that's trucking. And when somebody says that, get it right over to them and then go back to making your dials. Because it's about being efficient, right? The more calls you can make, the more efficient you are with your time, the faster you're going to build your business. It's about being efficient, which is why I did the Pomodoro technique today. It's about, being able to give yourself a chance to say, let me make my calls, let me take my break, let me make my calls, let me take my break, so that you can build your business and not drive you and everybody around you crazy. Been there, done that, right? You just a maniac, and nobody want to be bothered with you because all you want to do is work, but you don't never feel like you did enough because you can't ever track what you did. But at the end of the day, I can say I did 5 Pomodoros and I made calls 5 times for 25 minutes. Then I know I've done something that's trackable. Yes or yes? Now I know I've got something done. When you're going throughout your day and you just kind of all over the place, you make a couple of calls, then you answering emails, right? Then you texting somebody, then you running your kids somewhere, then you stopping at the grocery store, you come back, you make a couple more calls, you answer a couple of emails. You really don't know what happened to your day. And it's like we got to control it by saying, okay, this is what I'm doing today. Whatever else needs to be done is going to get done by a break. It's going to be done on another day. You've got to be able to do it that way. And if you can't, if you don't, you're going to keep feeling defeated every day. And in order for you to continue building this thing, you got to feel like you're having successful days. And in order to know you're having successful days, you got to be tracking what you're doing. You got to track those small wins. And that's what it boils down to. So I will be spending probably maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. It's not going to be long because it's a real easy thing to do. But I'll show you how to do it in Google. You can do it with Gmail if you're using Gmail. I don't know how to do it on Outlook, so don't nobody ask me. I don't use Outlook. I use Gmail. So I'm gonna show you how to do it on Gmail, and it's free. Like you don't have to pay any more money to Gmail. It's a way to template your emails on Gmail and send them out. So if anybody knows how to do it on Outlook, just reach out to me and let me know. And I will let you show people how to do that on the training because I use Microsoft for a few different things, but I'm not a Microsoft pro at all. I spend most of my time in Apple and in Google. So, but if anybody knows that, if anybody needs to know that, I would be glad to be able to have somebody talk about it, but I won't be the one. I may ask Sharon there to jump on and talk about it. She an old school Microsoft champ, so I may talk to Sharon Larry. Sharon Larry, she loved that. She loved her Microsoft. So Sharon Larry, I know knows how to do it. So I may reach out to her and ask her to jump on and show people how to do it on Outlook so they can template their emails. And I know you're using Prospect by Legal Shield and all that, but you guys know how I feel about that. You need to have your own system to send stuff from so you can keep track. Because again, if anything goes wrong anywhere, if you don't pay your bill, if something goes wrong and you can't access what you sent people or what you got, have it in your email so you can see what you sent people, when you sent it to them, what links you sent them. You want to have that in a system that belongs to you that you can log into. And, I believe in ownership. So that's where that's at. So in closing out, Sharanda, John, anything else we got want to add?
I do. So David Bazemore asked some questions about a conservation group. Obviously, you've opened some groups, Mr. David Bazemore, but you might want to tap in with a field trainer if you're not well versed. Corporate will allow you to do that even though you have groups, so you can benefit and help yourself that way. They give you groups because you have groups, but they will allow you to focus with a field trainer. And so just tap in with that and so you can get the best result from that. And then for the other person who John said, it depends. Everybody on here, you have some questions. If you talk to a field trainer, it doesn't mean that they're going to want 50%. People talk to you. Just call them. There's a list out there. Just tap in with them. If it's a simple question, if they tell you they're going to charge you 50% because you asked them a question, you run. There's a lot of more out there. So, it ain't that serious. Don't be scared to talk to somebody because it's not that serious. Like, you can ask a question and people ain't gonna take your group, okay? Seriously, they're not. So, but if they do, you run for real. But like the person who asked John about what you're saying, like John said, it depends on the conversation. We can tell you to send all this stuff, people know that works with me, we don't send a whole lot of stuff. We need to have a conversation first. You know, associates that work with me, I'm big about conversations with the prospect before we start sending out stuff. You know, but like John said, it just depends what you want to send. You know, you might be leading with
Give me a binder.
yeah, you might be
Purple
leading
binder.
with small biz. It just depends. Yeah, you can send them all that, and then a confused mind does nothing because paper doesn't talk. You know, so I promise you guys, just tap in with a field trainer. They'll answer your questions and they won't, it's not that serious. Don't be scared of field training. If somebody scares you, don't let them punk you out.
Just do it like you used to do it on the cell phone, Sharon. If you're talking to somebody, asking a question, they're like, well, I need you to fill out a commission share. Be like, I can't hear you, my phone breaking up.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you have the phone with them and call somebody else, man. Don't let anybody take half your group man about no questions, man. That's not
no
what
questions. Don't do that. Like no questions. I mean,
Yeah,
but seriously though, I'm serious, David. I'm sure that you got other groups, and that wasn't to you. That's to everybody on the call. We might have some new people that just took the class. I don't know was the person who asked, was they new, but it does depend, right? It really does. You can send whatever if you and you have tools, so you can send whatever. But if you really got that question, you probably got some more questions. So tap in with somebody that can help you. I promise you, if field training isn't the plague, it will help you. You know, it really will. But if somebody tell you, you ask a question, they're gonna take 50%, yeah, you better run. Because you asked them a question. I mean, come on now. But seriously though, tap in. We'll help. I mean, we will.
Absolutely. And Yolanda, I responded to your email too. So check your emails. I got an email from you today, and I sent you an email back from Sister Flo. So just so you know that I did see your email and I did respond back. Somebody was asking about bus.
Again, I'm gonna say this. I gotta say this. Every field trainer doesn't specialize in every area. So just because you're working with somebody may be a big producer, they might not be a big producer in CDL. Not just saying that. Like I'm a field trainer, but I'm not a big producer in schools, closing schools and things like that. So when you step to me with that, I'm gonna send you somewhere. Okay.
Thanks for saying that, because I had the field trainer list and I can't determine where the specialty is on that list. Is
Well,
it
like Alan says it like this, all trainers, he said it like this Saturday, all CDLP trainers specialize in CDLP, state trainers. But you got Melissa Wilder on there as well. You have some solutions trainers that know they have CDLP groups, but you have some solutions trainers that don't really play in that space. And so you ask that question. You know, I saw who you put. He's a big producer, but he may not do CDL. Okay. All right. So if you can always call the trainers and we can direct you if you want somebody close or you want to work with us or whatever. But yeah, just ask them, David.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Don't be ashamed either. Don't be scared.
Yeah, guys, we business owners, and like the other people on Legal Shield, they just business partners, man. Like seriously, they're just business partners. So like they may specialize in one thing, you might specialize in another. You might be doing networking for the last 2 years and decide you want to do business solutions because they're better in business solutions and you better in networking. That don't make them better than you or you better than them. It's a different area. So they're business partners. And if you collaborate with somebody, like I got another business that I run. When I collaborate with people, it's business, right? So some of you guys was on I did a conference in May. I had 3 trainers on that conference with me. I paid them. They didn't do it because they were my friend. I ain't call them and say, hey, come train with me because we cool from Legal Shield. No, I had to cut them a check. They wanted to be paid for their time. And I have a problem with paying them because it's a collaboration. And when you're doing business, you want to do business with people. Asking questions, no. Legal Shield don't pay us to consult with people on Legal Shield. I'm sorry. Like there's no fee structure for that. So if somebody wants half your group to answer questions, like Sharanda said, put them running shoes on. Act like your phone breaking up. Do something because you don't need to be talking to that person. A person needs to be letting you know, like over deliver. This is what I'm going to do. If you split your group with me, this is what I'm going to be responsible for. And you should be able to walk away. After you open 2 or 3 groups with that person, you should know what you're doing after working with that field trainer. If you don't, either you learning bad or they training bad. One of the two is happening there. But a field trainer is supposed to be able to help you do it on your own afterward. They shouldn't be holding your hand for 10 groups. They just shouldn't be, unless they're different kinds of groups. But ask questions, guys. Again, like anything else that you're doing, don't just grab a person because they're selling, right? Don't just, oh, this person's got a name in Legal Shield. Grab them, and then you're doing business with them. They want half the group. They should have to answer questions. Have you opened up any CDL groups before? Have you, like, I mean, you don't have to get personal with them, but ask them what kind of business they do so you have an idea. Right? I've opened up plenty of schools in Jacksonville. Like I work with the board in Jacksonville. I've got probably 17 schools in Jacksonville that I've opened up, right? Because I learned that from Alistair Edwards, but I never talk about that I do it, right? But I learned to do that a long time ago to open up schools and stuff. So it just depends. Everybody's different. Some people know how to do certain things. Some people don't. I saw somebody put something in there about school buses, about tow truck companies, towing companies. Lamar Reynolds worked with tow companies for years. I don't work with tow companies. I know in Texas, he said that he's had some success working with tow truck companies in Texas. As far as commercial buses and school buses and all that kind of stuff, you're gonna have to ask somebody else about that. I don't do those. I've worked them before. It's too much work for the money for me. It's too hard for me. So for me, can you do it? Yes. But you guys know I ain't doing a whole bunch of work for a little bit of money. So that just ain't me. Either I'm gonna work hard and get paid a lot of money, or I'm gonna do it for free. Ain't no middle ground. I ain't doing the whole work to work for a little bit of money. So that's just how it is with me. The school buses, it's too hard to close those guys, and they just don't. Again, ask yourself the CDL. Is this a prospect? Ask yourself, how often do you see them pulled over? Do you see them getting in fact? Do you see them getting in trouble? If you don't see them getting in trouble, like that industry getting in trouble, it's probably not a good industry to go after. That's how I would look at it. I'm not going after tour buses. I'm not going after school buses. I'm not going after all of those because it's too hard to make that sale. And honestly, school bus drivers, like yellow bus school bus drivers, don't get paid a lot of money. Remember, your prospects have to be able to afford your product. So you're going in at $29.95 plus the $24.95 family plan on a bus driver's pay. Again, you're doing business. You gotta see what makes sense.
And Ellen says it in the training all the time. Your number one client is the for-hire trucking companies that are running up under DOT, FMCSA.
That's right.
For-hire.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And particularly, I would say particularly over the road. I mean, you want over the road guys as well when it comes to those trucking companies. So try to shoot for those. It's enough of them out there for you to go after. If you got another reason you're going after another kind of company, then long as you got a reason and you like, hey, I'm going after this specific industry because I want to, because this is where my focus is at for whatever reason, that's different. But generally speaking, if you're like, hey, what should I be doing? Yeah, just set it up the way like Sharetta just mentioned. Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys. So remember, July 16th, next CDLP certification training, Sharetta Ivy this Thursday, accountability call, CDL. So make sure you're on that if you're plugged into that. If you're not, go to the Facebook page and get the information to plug into that. Ask your questions on the Facebook page. And don't forget to register for the August 1st, 4th annual Prospecting Trucking Companies Zoom. I will throw that link in there one more time before we close out. But I think that's pretty much it for tonight, unless any other trainers got something else they want to mention.
Thank you for sharing, John. I think they appreciate that.
Oh,
Thank you.
It's always good to be on the call.
Great session, guys. This has really been very, very productive. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
This was great.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Great training.
Thanks for being on and staying on late with us all every week.
Thank you.
I don't think we ever did a call. I don't think we ever ended at 9:30 ever in 5 years.
No thanks. No thanks.
Yeah, my calendar's set from my time anyway, 5:30 to 7.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. There you go. See,
I'm on the West Coast. Yeah,
you said you give us an extra 30 minutes, huh?
absolutely.
Good
Because
stuff.
it's to be used. I mean, I'm not overextending. That's just the way it comes out.
Oh, good stuff. I just dropped it in the chat again, guys. So just click that link to register. I think I just looked at, I think it was 30 something. So just click that link to register. I think I just looked.
This was a really good call. Yes.
Yeah.
Freely sharing your expertise. That's wonderful, truly. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you guys as always for
Yeah,
joining.
I liked about
Thank you so much.
Robert, your technique is
Thank you, Robert.
So many people talk about
John and Sharonda.
to-do, but you come up with to-do list, but it's how you attack it. And this technique is
Yeah, I use it. I use it daily myself.
good organized way. Yeah.
Yeah, I use it. I use it daily myself. That's how I keep myself focused and organized, and it just gives me a plan, so that I'm not just, because I'll start doing something and I'll do it all day. You know what I mean? I'll start in the morning and then like I'll just do that task all day long. And it's not that that's not productive, but it's better when you break it up and you're able to kind of take a break from it for a little bit and do something else, come back to it. So that's worked better for me. Definitely worked better for me.
Hey, well, everybody have a good evening.
Good night.
Guys,
Good night, everybody.